plan pre-submittal meetings. If everybody's using data, if people are using data that's objective, looked at objectively by both sides, that the developers aren't pulling the wool over the community's eyes, it might be a common ground to do what everybody wants to see done.
I have a follow-up question, Bob. Because my thought in response to that too was doing the kind of large-scale proactive planning. And I'm wondering if that's what you mean by telling your story, like having a comprehensive plan detail what the community's goals are, having an open space plan that comes right out front and says, here are the areas the community values, being able to back that up with that public participation, so that you know, I mean, have you seen that help in communities where developers coming in or project sponsors coming in and there's already been very clear goals communicated about what the town's interested in?
Red Hook is one community.
Yes.
That's yeah. But so many communities, you know, there's constant change in municipal officials. There has been, you know, before the Great Recession, so many newcomers to communities that, again, don't bother understanding where they live. You know, they used to come up on weekends and, oh, this is like Disney World. Look at the quaint, historic hamlet. And it's so nice, let's move here. And they don't go further with understanding where in the face of the earth they live. So having that discussion. One thing we did in Rhinebeck with our comprehensive plan, you know, at the time, this is 2003, handing out you know, cameras, disposable cameras to everybody to take pictures of your favorite places and compiling all that together so that everybody can kind of agree, you know, at least on what's beautiful.
If I remember correctly, they did that in the town of New Paltz, Kara, and made a screensaver or some kind of, right?
We did.
Yeah, of photos, of images that were collected by the community.
Yep.
So it's a nice way to get people involved. There's a question back.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had common tipping points where you saw these things, you know, the tipping point was where they came into fruition.
I think in New Paltz, you know, the bond was passed in 2006, and if you think about what was going on at that point, you know, sprawl was just marching up the Hudson Valley. It was all before the recession, a highly speculative development happening in an overheated real estate market, and I think that was kind of the tipping point. I think our open space plan kind of opened people's eyes to all the great resources we had in town, and led to, you know, again, two out of three voters voting in favor of taxing themselves for a $2 million open space bond. So I think sometimes it's one, you know, Frankenstein proposal. In this case, I think, you know, the Stoneman Woods proposal was one of those, 300 units. That's repeated in so many communities. But at this point, with we're in a, you know, kind of a post-recession economy, it's a little different. But I think that kind of finding those abilities to connect both watersheds, you know, streams, and you know, recreational resources, people get inspired by that, and that can be kind of a tipping point. These are positive tipping points. They're not sort of, you know, rallying 1,000 people to show up at a planning board against something. It's really about getting people to be in favor of building something.
I just wanted to say about the climate resiliency, because it's a term we've all been using all day. When we started H2H, we were skittish about using climate resiliency and climate change in some of our materials a few years ago, just because we have funders who don't or didn't at the time believe in it. So I've seen a change in the short time that we've been doing H2H where it's an easier conversation to have. People are starting to really understand that it's impacting us right now. So it's an interesting transition that our RCP has gone through in just a few short years. A lot. Richard.
How difficult is it to get the local municipality to put a bond act to vote? What's the process for that?
In the mid-2000s, it was easier because of the rampant sprawl pressures. It's tougher now. The 2% tax cap makes it even tougher. And that's one of the reasons why we're really having trouble spending some of that bond in New Paltz, because the 2% tax cap There's so little leeway even for debt service on the debt. So I think if your community doesn't yet have an open space plan or an inventory, that's a good place to start, because that doesn't cost, well, it costs consultant dollars and volunteer time and all that, but it's a way to build consensus and see what the political reality is. We also had help in New Paltz from the Trust for Public Land that did polling that found that there was a tipping point of kind of acceptability. I think it was $47 a year is what the average voter would accept to be taxed on. And so we made sure that our $2 million bond was below that sort of magic number for acceptability. So I think some of it is running the numbers. The Trust for Public Land is a good resource. They have polling people in Boston that they like to do these kind of polls for communities that are considering that. And you can really get a sense of what's the willingness to pay in your community. But I think before you can even start talking about a bond, you've got to make the case for what's at stake. Scott just mentioned Hurricane Sandy. I mean, it's those events like that too. Severe flooding, events can really open people's eyes to the need for protecting these, this natural green infrastructure.
If I can just add, human nature is to respond to disasters or respond to threats. No one perceives the threat now when the real estate market is somewhat subdued. But now's the time to do the planning and to motivate people to understand that. Let's plan for the next onslaught, let's say, now while we have the chance and time.
And I think you can message according to what you know is strong need in the community or something that will get a positive response. So, forest protection can be in alignment with source water protection, can be in alignment with hunting opportunities, and connectivity of the landscape also lends itself not only to benefits for wildlife resiliency, but also trail networks, right? Nobody wants to walk on trails that are down roads, that's like walking on the road, right? So you want to be in the woods or along the wetland or along a stream. So I think if people are going to be excited, I know when we talked to Red Hook, there was something from the historical preservation group who was like, well, how are people going to react to this connectivity linkage network? And when I, talked about the recreational benefits of having connections and that it could be aligned with the trails in Red Hook, for example, he was like, oh, I can see that could be a way to sell this. So I think being creative and recognizing there's so many multiple benefits of conservation of natural areas that I think there's different ways to address the particular audience or message to the particular audience.
I just want to add to that the experience we had in Gardner, where we passed a bond issue for $1 million.
By one?
By one vote, literally,
Yeah.
one vote. Never spent a penny of it, because the political will wasn't there, and it was just, not enough of a mandate, essentially.
I think that same year, Marbletown passed it by I don't know, less than 50 votes or something crazy. Yeah, so there's 3 right in Ulster County that year that all passed. I wanted to point out too, for the question about tipping points and you suggesting mapping and doing that kind of work, that just to remind you that there are hopefully annual Hudson River Estuary grants that will fund natural resource inventories, open space indexes, open space planning for municipalities and other partners. So just keep that in mind that there are ways to do that, and we also provide technical assistance on those projects as well.
Greenway grants too for that.
And Greenway grants too, thank you, Scott, of course. Right.
Yeah, we couldn't have done what we did in New Paltz without the Greenway grants and the estuary program grants. They were fantastic resources for this kind of community planning.
Debbie, you have a question?
I was really, also to share information, I was really impressed with high school students doing community service on the trail, and it's been a long-standing passion of mine, I guess, is to engage in exploration in this conversation. There's another idea for future, I think, I know you've done that in the past, is how do you bring students into the room with that video was really compelling to hear the students talk about how much a meaningful moment for them. So I'm just wondering, with land trust, are there opportunities to partner with schools, are there grants that can help to actually have them be part of, developing the solutions, putting together the plans, organizing the volunteers on the trail? It just feels to me like it's that time to
And you're talking high school and younger?
High school and younger, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if anyone else is with Westminster Land Trust or anything like that, and, you know, any other.
Or anybody in the room?
Kind of make it real to them, so it's not just, you know.
DEC has their environmental camp. I forget the exact name of the program, but Winnicke Land Trust has sent a number of kids, I think 8 total, to the DEC camps. Environmental camps, that's one thing. But yeah, how to engage young people? You know, I can finally say that I'm not the youngest person on Winnicke Land Trust board after like 25 years on the board, so that's good. But yeah.
One thing that I've always dreamt of seeing happen, and I don't remember if you guys can remind me, there is an allowance for the Municipal Conservation Advisory Councils to have 2 junior members. Age, do you remember the minimum age? 16. I think it's 16. And I've always dreamt of mentoring people, you know, 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds from their town to get involved with the local CEC. I know Town of Pound Ridge often has younger members. I don't think anybody's here from Pound Ridge today. But I think that's a great way to get them invested and learning about the, you know, the municipal land use planning conservation opportunities there are, and maybe that'll help keep them wanting to stay in Hudson Valley too in their towns. Christine, did you have a comment?
Well, the Columbia Land Conservancy is helped initially from a grant program for land trust, the New York State Conservation Partnership Program. Initially funded a summer jobs working on our conservation areas for high school students and recent graduates in Columbia County. Working with a group out of the Berkshires called the Green Rangers to recruit and train those trail crews. We kept it up for 4 summers. After that initial funding, we were able to tap into like regional community foundations to help support that and fund those jobs. And those young people get, you know, on the ground work experience, seeing conservation work, learning about land trust and what we do, and getting some job skills as well.
And the Student Conservation Association, in addition to having members that are college graduates, of which there's several in the room, raise your hands, tall and proud, SCA members, where's Marnie? There you go, Allison. Doing kind of, you know, semi-professional, professional level internships, but this SCA nationwide program also has the high school trail crews, and they've worked in Harriman and other places in the, you know, in the area for many years, and those are, I think, 16, 17-year-old range, 15 maybe even, getting out and working on trails and doing stewardship. So being out in the woods, hopefully. Wait, hold on, you've Pam, right? Jan, sorry. You had your
From
hand
Somers,
before.
New York, and we have a 650-acre preserve that the Somers Land Trust stewards. And we've done a lot of work with the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. And a lot of our Eagle Scout, we've had a lot of Eagle Scout projects and Girl Scout Gold projects where they've done work on our trails and all kinds of interesting projects for us. So we've had a really good partnership with Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts in town.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, one thing that frustrates me tremendously about this fishbowl that we all swim in is our complexion, the lack of diversity, and a lot of the presentations highlighted areas of denser population in all of the counties where we live, which would be great places to reach out. And if anyone would like to talk to me about how we can engage communities of color to care the way we do and be as involved and engaged, so that more of our gatherings would look more like the country we live in, I would love to talk to people about that.
I know that's an ongoing challenge and question and need across many conservation organizations. And I would love to know if anybody has suggestions on that as well.
City Hudson is starting to work in Poughkeepsie and Newburgh to look at the community needs and figure out how we might play a role. One is, there's this place in Newburgh called Crystal Lake, which was a thriving place where everybody wanted to be in the 1940s and 50s. and then it's been neglected for half a century, and we're looking through a combination of our resources and the city and some private funding to see if we can help bring that back. So it's really beginning stages, but I'm happy to talk further about that.
And I'll just add one thing that's been interesting, and since we've been doing technical assistance on getting communities to develop natural resource inventories, we imagine it to be really going to be happening in rural communities. And we've had interest and now engaged projects with Poughkeepsie, just started, City of Hudson, City of Newburgh is trying to get theirs going along. City of Beacon is working on one, and I'm forgetting Kingston, of course, and Kingston's actually moving now toward an open space plan. So we were really impressed to see all these urban areas saying, we want to know where our natural resources that are left are and plan proactively for them. So,
And just one other resource for people that have interest in getting students out. Community Foundation of the Hudson Valley has money for field trips for schools. And if you reach out to the schools and point out that that money is available to them, it's often a good way. At least you get the students there once. You can give them a certificate to come back again, bring their parents, whatever it is, and you will get a little bit more diversity and definitely interest from the students.
What's the name of the organization?
Community Foundations of the Hudson Valley. There's different parts of it. There's one in Ulster, there's one across the river, you know. You'll find the Community Foundation, but they have every year a certain amount of money earmarked specifically for field trips. And that's a big issue for the teachers. It's not, they can't bring them without that money.
And I was just going to say on the, trying to get youth involved and so forth. I don't know if there's a federal organization in this area or not, but last year I got a tour of this Harry River Center, which was a very interesting experience. There they get at-risk youth, kids from broken homes, things like that, kids who are basically juvenile detention types and stuff like that. They get it offered through the court system. No mandate, they don't have to, strict voluntary. But if they get into the program, they get reduced sentences sometimes, things like that. It's coordinated with police. They do a lot of nature research. They have microscopes and lab. They do a lot of river research. They also have, like in the back, you can make maple syrup. The kids get into it, and they now have something like, I think it's 90% of their kids end up going to college, which is the community college and coach school, things like that. And they really get them off track and into a different lifestyle. So if there's any parallel or some organization that there may be some reach out to those, might be a good way of coordinating.
one last question, and then we should wrap up.
This is an offer of, to follow the rest. This is an example that works in Tompkins County, Cayuga Lake. Cayuga Lake boy classroom in Cayuga Lake, trout in the classroom. It's all the same person, but it's a program that gets out to the schools. School leader comes on board the boat, it's a tour, an environmental tour of Cayuga Lake. Boats, does the chemistry, does the bathymetry, all sorts of very awesome stuff like that. Or they're raising their fish, their brown trout or river trout from October through like release. So they get their flag, they get their IDF pigs, they go all the way through and the tanks in school and they have to take care of them, and then they get to understand the streams, understand what's going on, and then release and make sure that they go back next year. It's great.
Thank you.
It's a trout unlimited program.
Could you have people come to the mic? It's the,
Sorry.
Words.
She was talking about Trout Unlimited sponsored program with trout in the classroom, and also where students can get out and experience being out in Cayuga Lake, much like the Clearwater, where they're out on a boat and doing water chemistry testing, things like that, and having a real environmental-based experience. I feel bad because it's 5 after 4. We did say we'd end at 4. Do you have something burning? Quick?
Well, it's connected with this template, the question of diversity. The same person who runs Trout in the Classroom at Ithaca he has a quote that he gives eco-tours to church-based groups. And there's a coalition, the Interfaith Climate Change Association, and they have representatives from the Black churches in the Latino community and the Asian American community. And so this last year we had 2 eco-tours, this year there were 4, and it's about the impact of climate change in the land. And they're all based
In the hear that, is about giving eco tours that are, is it reaching out specifically to church groups?
Through church.
Through church networks to look at climate impacts to Cayuga Lake. So that's a nice way to spin it too. Thank you. I want to take a moment first to give a big round of applause to all of our speakers. I learned a lot from everybody about the value of maps, the value of supermodels, models, ecological models, the value of partners and partnerships. I don't think anybody talked about a project that didn't involve many players that were supporting the project. And the values of having a clear vision and clear messaging that people could get behind. I know with that Milford Preserve project, that vision map really helped getting people visualizing something, that could happen. I think we saw that municipal boards have a role, land trusts have a role, county and state agency have a role, local landowners, whether you're planning a buffer on your land, or you're replacing a culvert on your town or county road, or you're envisioning and pursuing connectivity across, many boundaries. I feel like there's a place we can all fit into connectivity, and I really hope that you have an idea or something you want to pursue after you leave today. And I also want to remind you that on the back of the program was a list of resources with links to something that each of the presenters talked about today. I'm sorry they're not hyperlinks, but we will put this on the Mohonk Consultations website, where you will be able to hyperlink if that's your cup of tea instead of writing out long URLs. And also, if you could please hand in a yellow evaluation. There's a basket on the registration desk when you leave, and if you need municipal training certificates, see Lucy, or go out by the registration desk. Also, Lucy will take care of professional planning credits, AICP credits for anybody who needs those for today. I think that's it. I know you want to make a pitch, but okay. That's it. Please visit our website too for more information about April Forum next year, as well as other programs that Mohonk Consultations will be holding. So thanks again, all of you.
Thank you.